My name is Elizabeth. I'm standing in a courthouse, the weight of the past few months heavy on my shoulders. The trial has just ended, and the verdict is in. My mother, Helen, and her husband, Frank, have been found guilty of arson and conspiracy. It's a moment of justice, but all I feel is a deep sense of emptiness. It all started 25 years ago when my parents got divorced. I was just 8 years old, and my world shattered. My father, George, was an artist. He painted beautiful landscapes that seemed to come alive, and his passion for his work was infectious. But my mother was a ruthless woman. She wanted the upper hand in the divorce, and she used her wealth and influence to get it. My father didn't have the money to fight her, so he lost almost everything. My mother got custody of me and our family home, while my father was left with only a small apartment and a broken heart. I remember the last time he dropped me off at my mother's place. He knelt down in front of me, his eyes filled with tears. "Remember, Elizabeth," he said, "no matter what happens, I'll always love you." I didn't understand then, but those words would become my anchor in the storm that was to come. A year later, my mother remarried Frank. He was a successful businessman, cold and calculating. He had a daughter from his previous marriage, Lily, who became the apple of my mother's eye. At family dinners, my mother would introduce everyone. "This is my husband, Frank, and this is Lily, our daughter." I was always an afterthought. "Oh, and this is Elizabeth from my first marriage." As I grew older, I became used to being ignored, to feeling invisible. When I was 17, I asked my mother for money to buy art supplies for school. She looked at me as if I had asked for the moon. "Your father should take care of that," she snapped. Meanwhile, Lily was given a brand new car for her 19th birthday. I started working at a local coffee shop after school to save up for my art supplies. Frank noticed and scoffed. "She's just like her father, wasting her life on a useless passion." I pretended not to care, but his words cut deep. The one bright spot in my life was my high school graduation. I had won an art competition, a small but significant victory. I didn't expect my family to show up, and sure enough, they didn't. But my father was there, sitting in the back row in his old, tattered coat. He clapped the loudest when my name was called, and I could hear his proud cheers over the entire crowd. After the ceremony, he gave me an envelope. "I've been saving for your art school," he whispered. "Don't tell your mother." I kept that secret for 13 years. Then, one fateful Tuesday morning, I received a call from an estate attorney, Mr. Turner. He told me that my father had passed away peacefully in his sleep 3 days ago. My hands trembled, and the coffee cup in my hand slipped, shattering on the floor. What shocked me even more was that my mother and Frank had known about his death but hadn't bothered to call me. He showed me all the documents my father had prepared over the years. He had a psychiatric evaluation proving his mental competence, property records, and even recordings of my mother's threats during the divorce. On the day of the family meeting, I arrived at my mother's house. The living room was filled with people. My mother, Frank, Aunt Grace, Uncle Carl, Lily, and 3 lawyers. They thought I would be intimidated, but I was ready. One of the lawyers, Mr. Harris, started speaking. "Ms. Elizabeth, the will leaving you as the sole beneficiary may be contestable. We have reason to believe your father was not of sound mind when he made it." They were trying to claim that my father had been confused and that I had manipulated him. I listened calmly as they presented their case, and then I smiled. "You know what's funny?" I said, "You think you have all the power here." I then reached for my phone and sent a text to Mr. Turner. 2 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Mr. Turner walked in, looking every bit the confident lawyer. He opened his briefcase and started presenting the evidence my father had collected. The psychiatric evaluation showed that my father was of sound mind, and the will was legally binding. He also played the recordings of my mother's threats during the divorce. The room fell silent. My mother's face turned pale, and Frank's eyes were filled with rage. The lawyers quickly gathered their things and left, advising my mother to seek alternative counsel. But they didn't give up easily. After the meeting, there were 2 weeks of silence, which I knew was just the calm before the storm. One night, the security system at my father's house alerted me. A motion was detected in the front yard. I checked the live feed and saw Frank's car parked there. The next morning, Lily texted me, "He's been drinking and talking about getting revenge. Please be careful." I saved the message as evidence. A few days later, at 3 a.m., the security system went off again. This time, it was on the front porch. I watched in horror as two figures, dressed in black, poured gasoline around the porch and pulled out a lighter. I quickly called the police, and by some miracle, the sprinkler system my father had installed years ago activated. The fire was quickly extinguished, and the police were able to identify the license plate of the car as Frank's. The trial was long and painful, but the evidence was overwhelming. Frank was sentenced to 10 years in prison for arson and conspiracy, and my mother was sentenced to 5 years. As I stand here in the courthouse, I look around at the people who were once my family. I've learned that love should not be conditional, and I have the right to protect my dignity. My father left me more than just money. He left me the strength to stand up for myself. And I will never let anyone take that away from me again.